Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Sitra Nuruddin. I'm the Medical Scholar Coordinator at WMI. It's a pleasure to join you all today for this interesting session on SWOT analysis. Our presenter today is Mr. Eannes Ongus. He is a Chief Manager of Development at the United States International University, Africa. As the Chief Manager, he oversees the university's resource mobilization and fundraising efforts for infrastructure projects, in addition to various CSR initiatives, making him the ideal individual to host us and to present to us about the SWOT analysis. Mr. Ongus is also the current chairman of the Kasarani Neighborhood Association and the director and co-founder of the Lighthouse CBO. An academic background of Mr. Ongus, he's a finalist for MA in Communication Studies at USAIU Africa and BSc in Information Systems and Technology from the same university, and an MA in Leadership and Organizational Development from York St. John University in United Kingdom. He also has a BSc in Information System and Technology. He was a participant at the last year's Academy, and I have no doubt that he will be presenting us a great presentation. So please make sure to stay tuned and engage. It's a pleasure to have all of you. And without further ado, I will introduce Mr. Eannes. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Sitra and scholars, WMI scholars. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. It's a great pleasure, for me to be presenting on the week 3 of the WMI Online Academy and presenting the SWOT, analysis. I think it will be helpful, and I encourage all of us to use the chat on the 2 presentations that has happened, that I suppose is the market research and needs assessment, for those who are looking at NGO, CBO kind of setup, market research for those who are looking at, profitable entrepreneur, kind of setup, and also the business models, missions, values, that you've also learned. It will be interesting to get to learn your key takeaways, So I request that if you could possibly share your key takeaways for those 2 presentations. That will be very helpful because they build on, on each other, and of course, as the presentation goes, you will recognize that you have an idea, and this idea that you basically have, it may be a startup idea, it might be an idea to improve, your business, your CBO, your NGO, you have some kind of an idea, and this idea is basically what you subject, this idea is what you subject to market research. This idea is what you basically look at the aspect of, which direction do you want to take this idea in terms of the vision, of this idea, in terms of the mission, in terms of the core values that are going to govern the operationalization and relationships around the implementation of this idea, and then once you have all that in place, then you are getting to that aspect of, again, you have all this idea, how then do you do what then you call a SWOT, analysis for this idea in terms of just the identification of what are the key strengths, what are the key opportunities, what are the threats, what are the weaknesses of this kind of idea, because once you're able to do that, then it will help you with that aspect of, budgeting. It will help you with the budgeting aspect of it. It will help you with the staffing aspect of it. It will help you with even looking for resource, aspect of it. So it's important to know that all these presentations are interrelated, and as we continue to progress making various presentations, you are basically building up into that idea, in relations to the, the structure. So allow me to share my screen in terms of how we intend to spend, our time together. Just a moment. Yes. Can you confirm if you're able to see my screen?
Yes, we are able to see our screen.
Okay, I'm just trying to see if I can put it on a slideshow. Okay. Just stop the share first because there is a small okay. Okay. Is there, Sita, can you, which key should I press to make it on the slideshow? No, I think, oh, got it. All right. Thank you very much. Are you able to see my screen again?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yeah. Yes. So ladies and gentlemen, this is how we intend to spend, our time together. I intend to leave a couple of, some minutes at the end, of this presentation for us to engage. But I also encourage all of us as we are making this presentation, as we are engaging with each other, share your comments using the chat, share your questions using the chat. We are also very honored, to have Dr. Misha, who will be having a typical case study, of how she's conducted SWOT for her organization, and then she's also, a technical expert and will be able to respond to some of the questions as we are basically making these presentations. So again, I'm going to introduce SWOT analysis. We are going to look at who actually needs this SWOT. Why do we do it? Why is it important? How do we go about conducting and performing a SWOT analysis? What are some of the benefits and pitfalls around SWOT analysis? And then we are going to work around the sample organization on SWOT. So this is what I hope to present. In terms of the snapshot of this, if you look at that, SWOT basically acronym for it: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It is a planning tool. It is supposed to help you understand that idea, that you have in terms of what are his strengths, what are his weaknesses, what are the opportunities, and what are the threats, that are basically involved before you undertake that particular project, that particular business. And some of these projects and this business could be a new startup business, it could be a new CBO, or it could be an expansion, of already existing entity that you intend to basically improve. It is used as a framework for organizing, and using data and information gained from the situation analysis for you to understand the internal, environment, and the external environment. The internal environment basically centers around the two top layer, that is the strengths and the weaknesses, because this is already something that you can actually preempt, this idea, what do you see as a potential strength, what do you see as the potential weaknesses? But there are also the external environment. What are the opportunities that this poses, and what are the existing threats, around this idea, that I have or that I want to, advance. Technique is actually a technique that enables a group or individual. The reason why a group comes there is when now you want to look at a registered entity. But again, it recognizes that we can also do our own individual SWOT analysis. As a person, you are able to assess, what are you good at and what are the potential areas of improvement. So that technique that will help you, to basically a technique that will help you to enable you as an individual and a group to move from everyday problems, that basically these are the operational matters, to start thinking about strategy, to start thinking about fresh perspectives, to start thinking about new ways of doing things if you are to overcome some of the challenges that you have actually, shortlisted. So in terms of the specific strengths are basically characteristics of a business, characteristics of a not-for-profit, characteristics of a team, that gives you a comparative advantage, over others. What is it that makes you unique? What is it that makes you special? As you do an analysis of that project, as you do an analysis of that entity, what is it that is so special about that entity if you implement it? That what is unique value proposition is what becomes the strength, of that particular initiative or that particular project. What are the positive attributes, which are actually internal to organizations? And we'll be discussing what those attributes looks like when you look at the sample cases. What are the beneficial aspects of the organization and the capabilities of the organizations? One of the attributes that entities or individuals would sell, are the capabilities, of that particular entity or that particular project. So those attributes that you can actually talk about in terms of the capability of the institution, in terms of the staffing. People push the fact that we have excellent staffing or knowledgeable or skilled staffing as an opportunity, as a strength, as actually a strength, related to that organization. So the things that you can attribute, some people look at the kind of impact that their initiative is bound to achieve as a strength. People look at, the aspect of their turnaround time in terms of responding to a need, as a strength. People look at their books, their financial statements, and their bottom line as a strength, that in case of pandemic or in case of unforeseen circumstances, we as an entity, we are likely not to go down. Or people look at saying, in as much as we might not be having enough funding, but we have a strong resource mobilization team that will help pitch this idea for us to be able to get funding. So you are pushing the personnel, component, of the organizational structure, as a strength, to be able to make potential investors to actually invest into your business. Some other people look at the aspect of structure, the organizational structure as a strength, that probably we are lean at the top, or we are heavy at the top. Based on how we have structured ourselves, we feel that decision-making is much easier. And many of the potential investors are likely to invest in entities or enterprises where decision-making are easier and there's no bureaucracy. So you need to look at and assess what are some of the things that you can actually front as a strength. And then we've given a couple of examples, there in terms of probably you already having a well-known brand, but in case if you are a startup, or you're just starting, then that brand might not be there because brand is actually built over time. But what is it that you can actually put together? You can put together the thinking, the visioning as a strength. You can push together the strength, the anticipated impact of a particular project or a particular business entity, as a potential strength. You can put together the skills because you use what you have, in terms of this educational qualifications of the support, the key teams, that are basically pushing the project as a potential strength, because people invest in people and people invest in people's ability, and their ability to basically look at what those potentials are. But in terms of the opportunities, when you're pushing an entity, you are looking at what are the chances, if it is a business enterprise, what are the chances for the particular entity to be sustainable in terms of revenues, in terms of profits. So you are looking at, have you scouted the market and seen that if you are to venture into that initiative, then it's going to be profitable. For people who are looking at NGOs and CBOs, is the question of what is the impact? Is there a need, that you are trying to resolve? If you are to implement this project, how many people are readily available to be able to get into this particular initiative? For example, if you are starting a not-for-profit organization to support vulnerable women or to address the aspect of school dropout, for example, you could actually argue from a county statistics, from a national statistics, and say the number of people who are dropping out of school before they attain the age of this is quite this number. But that statistic is already demonstrating that if I implement this project, then this is the need that is there that I'm trying to address. This is the opportunity why it's already important for me to implement this project. For people who are looking at the profit setups, if I would want to start, an entity that, or a startup that would be able to help cushion, the environment. Somebody will look at it. If I implement this green energy project, how much savings that I am going to help the organization, and in return, how such savings help improve the profitability of an entity. So again, opportunities cuts across, regardless of which enterprise, which idea, whether it's not for profit or for profit organizations. You also need to look at arise when, these opportunities are likely to arise when an organization can take benefit, of the conditions in its environment to plan and execute these strategies, in a more, profitable, manner. So you're basically looking at, the rise of an entity if you implement, such profit, and those rises are always looked at in relations to impact, and also looked at in relations to profitability in the case of business. And some of the examples of opportunities is you have done sales projections in terms of the growth in market. You have looked at the aspect of changing needs of the clients that you're likely to to serve, and probably there are regulations in government that can make it conducive for your business and enterprise to thrive, or for your not-for-profit to thrive. For example, in Africa, there may have been no motivation for people to give, because the government tax laws do not allow the aspect of maybe tax rebates, and all that. But in the Western countries, there are actually motivation to give. You get tax rebate as an organization when you donate or give to charity. As an individual, you get some incentives to basically give. So again, if there are such laws that are enacted, in the continent, then that would actually be a motivation, for people to give, or for charities and CBOs and NGOs to come up, because when they come up, then they will be supported, by in countries, legislative agenda, and out of countries legislative agendas that enables that environment. There might have been sales decline, in your competitor's product for people who are looking at business. Again, if your competitor is not doing well, that is an opportunity for you to revamp your product so that now you are able, to basically improve on that. But there is also the aspect of things that we can always improve on. Weaknesses are things that you are looking at that we are not doing so well here, but these are the things that we can actually look at, So characteristics, things that put you as a firm, as an organization, in a disadvantaged stage. For profit entities, many of the things that put them in a very disadvantaged stage is the ability to attract enough resources. So issues of not able to raise enough finances to support your operations put you in a disadvantaged stage, in that you will not be able to meet your operational cost, pay your staff, support even yourself moving from location A to location B, and all that. So it's a weakness. So if it's a weakness, then you're looking at what is the opportunity around this weakness. So probably you need to revamp, the teams, to go out there to look for resources, and to pitch for the kind of ideas that you basically have. The weakness, probably around, organizations are staffing. Probably they don't have enough staffing that helps to position them, or the right scale. So you could be having staffing, but they don't have the right scale. So that could be a weakness in many of these entities. So what you look at is how then do you attract and incentivize the right staffing to be able to move your idea forward. So some of the examples of limiting factors includes limited financial resources, weak spending in research, people make decisions without doing research, and that is why now you are encouraged, before you do any startup, do your market research, do your needs assessment, because it's important. You know, for example, in certain parts of Kenya, you know, where now we've got drought hit areas where young women walk long distances to go and, you know, basically get water. You know, you will get enterprises, people come and say, we want to dig borehole to help sort out our mothers, you know, not to walk long distances. But from somebody who has the funding, you are looking at it that you are helping the locals address the water issue. But you do not know that there might have been underlying issues around, you know, why, you know, our mothers love walking those long distances, you know, to basically go and fetch water. And some of them could be cultural. So you would get people have gone to an extent of digging boreholes, and no one is actually using those boreholes. You know, and when you ask why, it's like you didn't ask us, you know, whether that is a priority to us. But for us, when we walk those long distances, you know, in probably more oppressive societies, that is when we also find time to basically check on each other and find out how we are doing and how we are supporting each other. So when we walk long distances, by the time we do 10 kilometers and come back another 10 kilometers, we've basically lived ourselves, you know, and that actually works for us. So the essence of needs assessment, the essence of market analysis, you know, is critical, you know, if we are to succeed in different enterprises and businesses that we are looking at. So do not spend less on research and development thinking that they just waste resources. They are critical because they help you determine where the gaps are, you know, and what actions you need to take to be able to fulfill those gaps. We've got people who have limited, you know, product lines, you know, and the consequence of having limited product lines, you know, or limited services, you know, is because sometimes when a certain line of service is not doing so well, you are disadvantaged because the other service which is supposed to support or which can leverage, you know, and ensure stability, you know, is not there. So it's important for people to diversify, you know, their product line, their service line, so that now if one side is doing so well, then it's able to cushion, you know, the other side. So that's why now if there are weaknesses, then it's always looking at what are the diversification opportunities and strategies, you know, that we need to be looking at. But there are things that we don't have control over. You know, these are what then we call the threats. You know, these are, you know, things that could trouble, you know, the business or the enterprise that the organization do not have control over. You know, and because they do not have control over, it's always important to look at, you know, what are the potential risks. For example, the war in Ukraine, you know, or, you know, has implications, you know, in the kind of inflations, you know, that are basically, you know, experienced, you know, in the continent and beyond. You know, there are high cost of living, you know, there are high cost of petrol, gas, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So these are things that have got direct impact, you know, into the business. So the business of the organization is the question of what are the mitigating measures? You can only come up with a business continuity plan or a risk mitigation plan to ensure that you minimize the risk as much as possible by elevating and focusing on the opportunities and building on the kind of strength that you already have. And some of the things that you do not have control over is that somebody just comes on board and say, what is, for example, WMI doing in relations to support to young people across the world, you know, access quality education and inspire the various, you know, dignified work. And somebody comes and say, oh, you know, this is what they're doing. We want also to come on board to do the same thing, you know, because again, you will reach statistics that the needs are there beyond the available resources to support. So there will be those new entrants that will come on board. Somebody comes and sells milk and you are still selling milk, you know, so it's the question of why is this person's, you know, which one is better, you know, or would somebody do differently? So somebody comes and actually look at your business. Once you sell the same product line that you're selling, but they come in and saying, how long does it take for person A to deliver milk to person B? Probably take 3 hours. How can I minimize the delivery time from 3 hours to 1 hour, for example? And then that becomes the competitive advantage of the competitor. So they come study you and saying, well, we want to come on board, but this is probably what we are coming on board, what we are coming to do differently in as much as the service and the product is the same. So entry of foreign competitors is something that you are unable to avoid, but you can only respond to. Introduction of new substitute services and products, and sometimes the needs of the clients that you intend to serve also change. Probably you used to serve more youthful generations, and the generation that you used to serve and enjoy your product have actually moved on. So it's the question of how do you respond to the growing needs and demands of your clients, and the potential beneficiaries of your initiatives, and there could be also increased government regulations. The government could just try to impose additional tax, and when they impose tax, that has got implications, on how we do our businesses, whether you are a not-for-profit, or whether you are for-profit organizations. So, and there is the economic downturn, like now the health pandemic came and, many economies were run down as a result of that. So it's also the question of how then do we respond to some of these in relations to threats. Why do we aim to do SWOT? It helps to compare ideas, and just to ensure that you're doing the right thing. It also helps to really, organize important factors that are linked to the success or failure of a startup. Because once you mapped out opportunities, strength, weaknesses, you are able to look at what are the things you need to focus on, that will be able to be linked to your success, as an entity. It helps you also to navigate through past issues that might have existed, and help you figure out a strategy and a plan, to basically come out of that. Who needs this? Because different people need this, including yourself as the founder, the CEO of this enterprise. You need this. The management need this. And who are the management? The management is that CEO and his or her executive team, because they need this, to be able to make a determination, on what are the targets that we need to basically have, which is the direction that we need to focus on, as an entity. Where are we not doing well that we need to focus on? Where are we doing well that we need to improve and continue to do well, so that now we retain. Retaining your potential beneficiaries is a great success factor. Keeping your existing client, because it takes a lot of resources to onboard one client, and onboarding that one client, it's easier for you because they've already understood you to retain that client. So how do you retain that client or that beneficiary? By continuing to do the right thing. If you continue to keep up there, then you are able to basically retain, and that decision is very critical. You can only establish just through SWOT, and is important to the management. For the organization, it helps track revenue. It helps track resources. It help you improve on and become a leader in what you're basically doing. For example, if you are an organization and you've done your own SWOT, you're looking at, probably this product line is not doing so well. We need to do A, B, C, D in order to improve that, so that now we increase our revenue. If you're a not-for-profit, based on the impact of what you do, more donors, more partners will come on board to basically support your cause, because those guys are the ones picking, because that you will know which stories, to basically share out there, in terms of the impact, those impact stories. And those impact stories, defines what you do and makes people want to support your enterprise. It helps you launch new initiatives. If, for example, you've been offering maybe scholarships, on STEM-related discipline, and you actually realized that you wanted to tap into refugees and persons with disabilities, for example, and their interest is more into humanities because they want to address the psychological problems. Then you come on board and saying, based on this research, based on what I am doing, I want to introduce probably more additional programs to allow more young people to basically, take this, and all that. So it helps you as an NGO, it helps you as a for-profit institution on which new product and services do you want to launch. If you had always had one product line, from a business perspective, you're saying, oh, we think now we want to venture into product B, product C, product D, because we've really studied and understood the market. SWOT will actually help you do that. Again, SWOT also helps business, units, departments, to improve on their service delivery, and also when a new team member is appointed, it's good for them to do the scanning, of the department in terms of what skill sets are there, operations, what people are saying, and all that to help you basically adapt and allocate and position resources, carefully and efficiently, and to enable you basically achieve your goals and your targets. Again, how then do we conduct an analysis? You have to establish an objective. You have to select people who work with you, both internal and internal. You have to really, allocate research and information team, in terms of people just working together with you in terms of who should be able to address what. And then now you can meet together and just check, based on, what is going on. I can see Egide raising a hand. If you allow me, I will respond to that. If you just put your question on the chat, but we'll also be able to, give you an audience to raise any specific concerns that I will be able to address. Again, how do you do that? You also list strengths, weaknesses, opportunities in the table that I had shown. You evaluate those ideas against the objectives, and then now you are looking forward to carry the finding forward. That carrying the finding forward is critical because what next after SWOT? What next after SWOT is where now you can come up with your business, your financial plan, your starting plan, because you've already made clear way forward in terms of what is ailing the entity or the idea and what is working for the entity or the idea. So you are able to resource properly, both human and financial, and allocate the right budget. So the SWOT will help you now do a business plan, for the entity, come up with a strategic plan if it is for a not-for-profit, and those will have all those resources that you basically require, to succeed. This is just an analysis of external and internal environment. We'll share these notes, with you. Again, this is a map out and probably is a good place, to probably see if there may be quick responses. But again, from the team, this is an opportunity where now you can start thinking about your ideas, list them in terms of what are the potential strengths, what are the potential weaknesses, what are the opportunities, what are the threats. This program has got benefits. This program has got benefits. When you do your SWOT analysis, it helps you to know your competition. It is a decision tool for you. It helps you to focus. That is why it's important to do a SWOT analysis, because it unearths more information that sets you up for success. If you already know what your competition is, not just competition, what somebody else is doing out there, it helps you to make some decisions in terms of staffing and resourcing. It helps you to focus and project, which direction you want to do, But again, it also has its own challenges. It can be too subjective, and of course, it can also enable organizations and entities and individuals to view things more from a simplistic perspective, that I just need to put my issues in 4 boxes, and that is it. And probably it also lacks detailed structure. So the key elements might get missed, but it's always a good, a good starting point. Once you develop the SWOT, there are always the aspect strategies that you basically develop. You know, you look at those strengths you've identified. Once you've identified those strengths, they help you to maximize on the opportunities. Identification of strengths will help you maximize on the opportunities. If you look at how those same strengths can be utilized to minimize the threats, because remember, threats are things that the organization have no control over, you know, so that helps you in terms of the strength threat strategies. It also can help you to use the opportunities you've identified to develop strategies that will help you minimize the potential weaknesses. And again, avoid the threats, you know. So we've got what is called the TOWS analysis, which swaps, you know, our SWOT to help you develop an analysis, you know, and strategies moving forward, you know, that can help you address some of the things that SWOT has basically brought up. Again, this is just what I have described, you know, and we are also so honored, you know, to have Santulan, you know, to have Amisha. You know, Amisha runs Santulan NCD Prevention, you know, initiative, which is a not-for-profit, and this is a real initiative that is already impacting, you know, young people. So if you allow me, you know, probably I can give a few minutes, you know, to just share, you know, a little bit of the SWOT, you know, for Santulan, you know, and then now we can engage on a question answer session. Amisha?
Thank you. Thank you, WMI and Mr. Ongus for allowing me to present samples work that we prepared for our initiative, Santulan. Santulan was initially started as a project that is being funded by WMI Community Development Grant. Santulan in Nepali means balance, and we started this NGO to raise awareness and to promote advocacy for healthy lifestyle for non-communicable diseases in Nepal. And in this, based on this NGO, we planned on conducting health promotion activities in rural area of Nepal to enhance the knowledge, attitude, and practice of the students regarding healthy diet, their physical activity, and the effect of other modifiable risk factors such as alcohol and tobacco for non-communicable diseases. The strength of our organization is that we, and Dr. Dikshant, who is also another medical graduate of WMI, and I myself, we started this project, and our team is mostly composed of medical graduates, public health professionals, and nursing staff. So we have a strong health background, and our organization not only works on health promotion, we also plan on promoting research on public health. Dikshant and I also have been volunteering extensively on health-related projects, especially during our medical journey, medical school journey. And our project is currently taking place in Raswa, which is about 6 to 8 hours travel from Kathmandu, the capital city of Nepal. So Dikshant is currently working there as a medical officer in Raswa District Hospital, and I also volunteered as in children's camp post 2015 earthquake that occurred in Nepal during my second year of medical school. So the site also has a strong link to our project, and Dikshant and I also have a keen interest in research, so we chose to work together. Our weaknesses include, since Dikshant and I and other team members, we work in different hospital in different places, I work in the capital city of Nepal, whereas Dikshant works in a rural area, and the other team members are scattered around different cities of Nepal. So we also have different work schedule that will impact the schedule of the project that we are conducting. Also, since we also have a strong health background, I think we experienced this while we were preparing financial resources for our project. I think we lack human resources for financial advice. And we also, since we started this project recently, I think we have a weak online presence. I think the social media and media platforms play an important role for the success of project, especially in internet motivated society right now. For the opportunities, I think acquiring the WMI Community Development Grant and working in this project together, if we are successful, we can apply for grants from different international organizations who are working especially in the field of non-communicable diseases. We also have the chance of collaborating with other organizations which are already working in rural areas for the prevention of NCDs. Santulan also, we also plan to develop membership programs. Currently, I think we are around 5 to 10 members only in Santulan. We also plan to expand our membership programs in future for interested medical students in from different medical colleges in different parts of Nepal, so that we can raise awareness not only in one place, but it can be multiple. We can work in multiple cities and have multiple impacts in multiple communities. Also, another another developing membership program can also, I think, aid us in increasing media coverage, because we can motivate different students in different areas. So that's already a diverse coverage in terms of when we develop such a membership program. For threats, I think since Nepal has a diverse culture, religion, belief, and background, we have uh, so many caste and belief. Each community has their own belief and taboo that they strictly follow. So every time we conduct projects, I think we need to bypass and make people confident that we will not be harming their belief. Rather, we will be modifying their belief and helping in increasing their awareness about regarding such diseases. Also, if you follow the news in Nepal, I think we have very unstable political conditions, especially with the recent election, and the government regulations keep changing in terms of policies and tax system. So I think when we register, we will encounter such problems which might threaten our organization. Since our team members have different future plans, I think this can be considered one of the threat. If our future goals and plans, if we plan to pursue future education, I think this might impact the future project, as one of our team member will leave temporarily leave the project for their own professional development. We also considered this as our threat because um, there might be risk in implementation of future projects and ideas if we will lack funding in the future. Uh, this We can always apply for funding, but this can always be a threat if there is a lack of funding. Since we also are a small startup organization which is working on a grassroots level compared to international organizations such as WHO, which has already been working on NCD awareness in different rural areas of Nepal and other different countries. and they also have a greater influence than a small startup up like ours. I think this can be a threat, and we will have to work harder in overcoming such threat in terms of working alongside alongside such international organizations. I think that's all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Misha, and I think you deserve a round of applause. Thank you so much. I think it has come very clearly. I wanted, and that is also tied to, Egide's question, around the opportunities. So just using the, Dr. Misha's, projects, to try and elaborate this, is when you have an idea, or you have a project, or you have a startup, or you have a business, what do you see, as potential, areas, collaborators, people who can help you prosper, things that can help enrich your business or can help enrich your enterprise. For example, if you have realized that there are issues of less financing, of the organization, do you see the rise on, family foundations? Do you see the rise on angel investors, as a potential opportunity for funding for your enterprise? And what do you need to do, to basically tap into those fundings? So opportunities like now you see in this case, you're looking at the team is looking at many international organizations, as a potential opportunities to help support, their enterprises. But they're not just looking at the aspect of people coming to support the initiative. They're looking at how do we own the initiative. And that is why now the idea of developing a membership programs comes in, so that now it becomes a coalition of the willing, to able to address issues, that are pertinent, to this. But what are the other opportunities? If we get the media to highlight our initiative, then probably we are able to get more visibility. We are able to get more prominence. Then we are able to reach the potential partners that might be interested in the work that we do and can call us, for a conversation, can call us, for support, can call us, to work together. So I wanted to use, the case, to be able to demonstrate the opportunity, and I'll be happy, to be able to share this, typical case with all the scholars, so that now you have an understanding of the practical case as you are developing, and enriching your own ideas. So I want to stop there, and return this back to Citra, for, a couple of interactive sessions, with the scholars, and respond if there are probably other specific questions that need their attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eannes. It was a very, very interesting presentation. I'm sure all of us have gotten a lot of takeaways. We have 3 questions here for you. So Egide mentions he wants further clarifications on the opportunity part of the SWOT analysis. So if you may please just describe a little bit further with regards to what we mean when we say opportunity in the SWOT analysis.
Okay, thank you. Do you wanna, probably pick all the 3, in that round, so that I can, yes.
Definitely. And Patrick says the theme today is don't start with a SWOT analysis. And what would be the risk if you start without conducting a SWOT analysis? So he would like to know what was the risk associated with not starting it. Why should we use a SWOT analysis? And the third question is, you said that one of the defects of a SWOT analysis is that it's very subjective. And are there any ways that you suggest we can make it more of an objective assessment? These are my 3 questions for you, Mr. Eannes, from our wonderful participants who have been engaging very much so.
Yes, thank you very much. Allow me to respond to the question around the opportunities. The opportunities, again, is also the question of a chance that you have as a social entrepreneur, or a chance that you have as somebody who leading, an enterprise or a not-for-profit, entity to be able to do better. So what are these chances? These are the chances that the team that you have should be able to spot on some of these chances. And they are basically dictated by the external environment. One of those chances would be, for example, if it's for a startup or an NGO, are there many international foundations that support your idea that you can actually leverage on to support you? If you've got a social entrepreneurship or a social venture idea, do we have more venture capitalists? Do we have more angel investors that are available that you can actually go and pitch your idea to? So now those are the opportunities that we are referring to, chances that you have, or you can spot, or you can smell to be able to help promote and enhance, your entity. And then the question on what if, you start without the SWOT analysis. There are people who basically just wake up and say, well, I have this idea, I just want to implement it. It can succeed, it might not succeed. So starting with SWOT analysis brings the predictability aspect. Starting without the SWOT analysis, you work with a lot of assumptions. And when you work with a lot of assumptions, chances of failing, are very high because you have not looked at all the parameters that will ensure that your idea basically succeeds. And I just given a case where now the NGO came up and thought that they are addressing a water issue, in one of the areas or one of the regions, only to realize that the lack of availability of boreholes or close proximity to water was serving to the advantage of that oppressed community, especially the women, because they were looking at that as more of a plus. Now, like Amisha has presented, if, for example, you go, there is a lot of cultural context that are a determinant to the success of many of these initiatives. If you go and not being sensitive to the cultural operations, of where you want to initiate your idea, then it might just be dead on arrival. So again, the SWOT help us dispel, some of the assumptions, that we are likely to have, and basically sets us into the place to, to succeed. And remember that there are many parameters and other things that are, inculcated in this. It's not just SWOT, it's the question of even having done SWOT, what next? Because once you do the SWOT, there is also the aspect of it's going to help you do your right staffing, your right financial planning, your right resourcing, so it's going to help you in many ways in terms of predictability as you move along and set yourself, basically to succeed. I said it might appear to be subjective, and the reason why it might appear to be subjective is because of the simplicity. Somebody would just look at this from a simplicity perspective, in as much as it helps you, to list what threats are, opportunities, threats, weaknesses are, So that's why we call it subjective. It looks more from a simplistic perspective, but to do probably an objective, approach is probably the detailed research that accompanies this. There are people who just say, how deep can you go to unearth some of the information that you're looking at? That is why now it is not operating alone. We do not recommend that SWOT analysis operates alone. That is why you are taken through the first training on market analysis or needs assessment. Why is that important? Because you're doing in-depth study, of the kind of idea or the kind of gaps that you want to address. And based on that, you are able to now do your listing because the SWOT is guided by data that has come from has come from the market analysis and this analysis that you have actually done. Because how are you going to put the opportunities if you had not done market analysis? How are you going to look at gaps that you are addressing from the mission, the vision that you have for your idea, the values, if you had not done your market analysis? So what we're basically saying, the objectivity and the subjectivity is that if you are to do it in isolation, but objectivity if you are to recognize and bring in all these other structures that help you come up with a very good and sound SWOT. So happy to clarify further, but that would be my quick responses to the 3 questions. Do you have some other comments, questions?
We have 2 more.
Yes.
One question asks if competitors can be considered as a threat. And another one asks, is SWOT analysis a one-time thing, or is it something that can be done yearly as the initiative progresses? Thank you, Eric and Natalele.
Brilliant. In fact, competitors are not a threat. Competitors, depending on how you look at it, for competition helps you improve. It's just recognizing that this is the type of competition that you basically have and what they are doing to be able to basically position yourself. So they are external, and because they are external, you do not have control. You can look at them as new entrants or people who are basically existing. So because they are external, you can consider them either as an opportunity, and you look at them as an opportunity if, for example, they're not doing very well. What they're basically doing are not very well. So when you look at your competitor or your competition, what you basically need to do is to position yourself to see if you can get some of their clients or some of the people that they're basically doing, they're basically having, based on you doing it right and based on you analyzing and looking at them. So competition, can be both an opportunity and a threat. If, for example, you've studied them and they are operating above board, then they can actually kill your enterprise, because many of the potential beneficiaries will go to them and you'll be there without revenue. And, so it's more positioning. So competition or competitors is supposed to actually help you evaluate yourself and to become better. That is how you need to look at them more as an opportunity, as opposed to a threat, so that now it helps improve. The question on, Sitra, that question was on there's just last one.
The last question that was asked?
Yeah, that was asked. Other than the competition being a threat or an opportunity, there was another one that
Is SWOT analysis something that should be done as the initiative progresses, or should it be done only once?
That's a good question. So one is that SWOT analysis, you need to do it when you are starting up an initiative. That is number one. And you need to do it constantly when you are reviewing your strategic plan. So it's not a one-off. It helps you assess entrant, and it can also help you, basically to position yourself and become better. SWOT analysis is not just institutional, it's also per department. If, for example, I'm running a medical school and probably I want to do a SWOT analysis of how my emergency unit is working, then I will do SWOT analysis specific to the emergency unit and leave the rest with a view of improving the services that we are basically offering there. So SWOT analysis is a continuous process, and people do it based on the need. If I'm coming in as a new person, I would probably want to, to do it to help understand the organization better or the department better, with a view to basically improve. When you are reviewing your strategic plan as an organization, especially when now it's established, that strategic plan will include the SWOT analysis, because that SWOT analysis will help come up with the strategic goals, and it will also help you with your action areas based on, what the SWOT analysis has revealed. So it's a continuous process, and a good practice that we encourage both startup and established institutions to emulate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eannes. So we have one last question, which asks if a SWOT analysis should be used as a tool during our marketing research, and that you mentioned TOWS to us and SWOT analysis. So how is that contrasted?
So how it's contrasted actually is if you check that the SWOT analysis is, so it's a good marketing tool. But when it's the marketing tool, an important internal document, please don't expose your SWOT out there to potential investors. When you are pitching, you would want to focus on your strength and what you see as potential opportunities. Because when you focus on strength and potential opportunities, then you will basically mitigate on threats and weaknesses of an entity. So again, for purposes of marketing yourself and looking at the value proposition, you would focus on opportunities and you're focusing on strength, so that is important. The opposite of it, that is I'd make reference to the TOWS analysis. The TOWS analysis is, once you've come up with SWOT analysis, is the question of how do you define strategies that help you to become better? So TOWS analysis is the opposite of SWOT, but is to help you address, some of the gaps that are basically coming out. So for example, TOWS will tell you, look at the strengths you have identified, then come up with ways to use those strengths to help you maximize on the opportunities. These are what then they are called strength opportunity strategies, because you can come up with strength opportunity strategies to help you, basically overcome, some of the things that, you've actually identified. You can also look at how the same strengths that you have can help you minimize the threats, because the more strength and good things to shout about can help you minimize the the threats that the institution has. That is what then we call strength threats strategies. So you are looking at, you've already analyzed what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, so you make your strength more bolder, more visible, so that now, it helps you minimize the threats. You can also use the opportunities you have identified to develop strategies that will help minimize the weaknesses. So once you focus on the opportunities, for example, if one of the issues that you are having is financial feasibility of the entity, and you know that there are many partners out there that are willing to collaborate with you to help improve your financial situation. So you focus and become aggressive in tapping onto the opportunities to get more resources. When you get more resources, the threat of not having, or the weakness of not having enough resources will just fizzle out. So that is what now we are saying, weakness opportunity strategy. You basically make opportunities more visible, to help you kind of counter the weakness. Then you can actually avoid threats as well. When you avoid the threats, by just continuously doing the things that we've talked about, then that is called weakness threat strategy. So you just want to position yourself to avoid threats as well. So now that is the TOWS analysis, is just to help you, look at the SWOT that you have actually come up with, to design strategies for success, for your entity. I thank you. Yes, Citra, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Eannes. So these are all of the questions that we have for today. It was a really, really interesting presentation. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your experiences as well as the SWOT analysis presentation. I'm hoping that we all have gotten something very, something we can take home with us, and also a homework assignment. So thank you all. It was a very interesting, and everyone make sure to engage in the question and answer as well as the chat. So we're really thankful to have you with us. We hope that you'll continue to engage with us as well. And it's a pleasure.
No, thank you so much. I just want to also appreciate, Citra, if you allow me, the scholars, they've been amazing, engaging, and again, the way out, some of these are great opportunities. I do urge the scholars to participate in all the sessions, because it will culminate to the pitch presentation, and we are looking forward to, so every presentation that comes, I would want to challenge the scholars to look at the end game. Will I be able to have a product that I can actually pitch? So let's pick, let's organize, ourselves, let's learn, and we are actually looking forward, to that opportunity. So I want to thank everyone, and we are looking forward to continuous engagement. So I thank you, and just to appreciate Dr. Amisha, who has been great. Thank you for sharing, what you do and the impact, of this initiative, and we are looking forward, to continue learning from you, and seeing, how much we can work together also to scale, this particular initiative. So I thank you, and I wish you all a nice evening.
Likewise, thank you all for joining and taking part. Have a good evening.